Welcome to the final part on poem Bayonet Charge by Ted Hughes. We will be reviewing the poem and preparing to write an assessment style answer on it using the big idea structure. I'd like you now to pause the video and spend 20 minutes or so reading your appropriate reading book and then turn on the video again. So this is what the review sheet looks like, and I'll be asking you to fill this in for Bayonet Charge. In the first box, I want you to think about the content, so write a response, a few sentences to what is happening in the poem, what is the poem about, who is it about, what kind of big ideas are there. For the second box is form and structure. Can you say what the formal structure is? Are there any patterns in the poem? What does the poem actually look like on the page? The third box is context. So what information about the poet and their life is important for the poem? Where did they get their ideas? What events and information, beliefs are important to them and in influencing their writing of this poem? Number 4 is the speaker. So who is the speaker in the poem? Are there other speakers? Is there just one speaker or are there a few? And how do these speakers feel? Number 5 is imagery. So what pictures stand out in the poem? What can you see? Why is the writer using these pictures? Why are they important? The sixth box is about vocabulary and techniques. So which words stand out? Can you name the types of words? What are the techniques? Can you name the techniques? How are they effective? Why are they good? And are there any particular patterns of words and techniques? The seventh box is the tone. What is the mood or the feeling in the poem? Is it angry, sad, happy, confused? And finally, the eighth box is about theme and message. So thinking about what is the point of the poem and really what is the poet trying to get us to think and feel as readers. So now I'd like you to complete the 8 boxes for the poem Bayonet Charge. If you can print this off, that would be good for you. But if not, just make 8 notes, headings, and complete them. So next, I'm going to ask you to explode 2 key quotations from the poem, and on this slide is sort of what that sort of looks like on your page, and this needs to be done in as much detail as possible. So the first quotation to explode is "His terrors touchy dynamite," and this comes at the end of the poem. So I want you to think about and make notes of around the quotation itself. So write the quotation out with some space around it, and then around the outside I want you to fill in ideas for each of the questions. So the first one, what's the big idea? What's the big idea here about the soldier's feelings? I want you to write down some notes about the language, the structure and the form. Can you pick out any techniques from this quotation? Can you pick out any keywords, word types, and explain how these things are effective? Explain how these things have an impact. Can you talk about why, so the context? Why has Ted Hughes done this? Can you link it to World War I and the experiences of Hughes' family of war and any other information that's relevant here, any other context? Can you kind of summarise it, so what, by saying why it's important? And obviously the where itself is the actual quotation. And I'll give you some ideas to support you in this on the next slide. So complete this in detail. So the quotation I've asked you to explode was "His terrors touchy dynamite." And in order to help you kind of think about what's the big idea here, you need to ask yourself how the soldier is feeling at the end of the poem. And remember, we've said in the past that, the soldier has become a weapon rather than a human being. And the only thing that's driving him forward, is making him act, is his fear. He's lost all those other feelings about pride and honour, and now the only thing that's moving him forward is the fact that he is totally scared. So you can use that to help you answer what's the big idea about that quotation. So the next quotation to explode about the soldier's feelings is "The patriotic tear that had brimmed in his eye, sweating like molten iron from the centre of his chest." So again, I want you to think about what's the big idea about the soldier's feelings here. and I'll give you some support on the next slide. The where is obviously the quotation itself. How, what can we say about the language, structure and form in that quote? Can we pick out some techniques or keywords or word types and explain how they are effective, how they have an impact on the reader? Can you explain why Ted Hughes has done this? Can you link it to the context about Hughes and about World War I and about his family's experiences of war? And can you finish with your so what, with your summary, explaining why this quotation is important? So the second quotation to explode about the soldier's feelings is the patriotic tear that has brimmed in his eye, sweating like molten iron from the centre of his chest. So in order to think about how the soldier is feeling here, we need to know what patriotic means. And we've talked about this in the past, that patriotic means having huge pride and support for your country. However, we've also discussed how the soldier is no longer feeling patriotic. That patriotic tear had brimmed, is no longer there. He used to feel patriotism, but now he only feels worried. His patriotic tear, which represents the pride he used to have fighting for his country, has turned to sweat because he is afraid. Those feelings of patriotism have completely disappeared, and they have been replaced by the soldier's fear. So the question I want you to write a big ideas paragraph on is, how does the soldier feel in bayonet charge? And I've put a number of support activities and resources on the following slides which you can use and to write a really good paragraph which includes all the features. So write your paragraph answering the question, how does the soldier feel in bayonet charge, and then email your work to your teacher. Thank you, and well done for your hard work.